The gods never left. They just changed form. What if the ancient gods weren't myths, but memories, echoes of a forgotten truth buried in stone and scripture? What if the sky once thundered not with clouds, but with machines, and what we now call mythology was once lived history? Long before modern religions drew their lines and borders, before the world was mapped and measured, India held stories that seemed to defy time itself. These weren't just fables. They were recorded accounts, etched into stone, chanted in ancient Sanskrit, and passed down like sacred fire from generation to generation. In these legends, the skies were not empty. They were filled with beings of immense power and purpose, beings known as the Devas. The Devas weren't ethereal, robe-clad figures floating on clouds. They were radiant, commanding entities described with luminous skin, halos of energy, and vehicles that traversed the skies. They wielded knowledge and technologies that seem almost impossible for their time, unless, of course, we've underestimated the age of that knowledge. And for all their brilliance, the Devas weren't the only ones in the sky. Opposing them were the Asuras, beings of similar power but vastly different intentions. Between them, caught in the ripple of cosmic rivalry, was humanity. These beings, Devas and Asuras alike, weren't gods in the way we think of deities today. They didn't demand belief. They demonstrated power. They arrived in flying machines, emanated frequencies, and altered the course of civilizations. The ancient texts didn't simply revere them. They documented their presence in excruciating detail. The horse, for example, a recurring symbol in early Indian lore, wasn't just a beast of burden. It represented movement between realms. In the stories of the Ashvins, the twin healers, their arrival on winged horses hints not at fairy tales, but at flying vessels interpreted through the lens of ancient language. Horses weren't always animals. They were metaphors, perhaps even literal mistranslations of celestial vehicles. And then there were the Vimanas, fabled crafts capable of astonishing feats. Some were said to be spherical, others tower-shaped, some with wings, and many with the ability to disappear and reappear at will. These crafts weren't hidden behind the curtain of allegory. Their propulsion systems, flight mechanics, and structures are described with surprising technical precision in texts like the Mahabharata and even the lesser-known Vaimanika Shastra. One of these crafts reportedly fired a single projectile that unleashed a blaze as bright as 10,000 suns. Not a metaphor. A weapon so intense it scorched stone, felled birds mid-flight, and turned men to ash without fire. This sounds chillingly familiar to us today. Blinding light, unbearable heat, a destructive wave, images all too reminiscent of nuclear warfare. But these accounts are thousands of years old, long before humanity, at least officially, discovered how to split the atom. So what are we reading when we open the Mahabharata? A war between men, or a proxy war between something much older and far more powerful? The stories unfold like history disguised as myth. Two human factions, the Pandavas and the Kauravas, locked in battle, yes, but behind them stood the gods, guiding, manipulating, pulling strings from unseen heights. The war wasn't just terrestrial, it was celestial. The sky became a battlefield. Weapons the likes of which we still don't understand were unleashed. These were not metaphors. They were accounts of a civil war among higher beings, and humanity was collateral. And yet, within this cosmic conflict, there was design, a system. Vishnu, the preserver, didn't merely observe. He intervened, again and again through avatars. Not always human, not always terrestrial. Matsya, the fish being. Narasimha, the lion man. Vimana, the cosmic dwarf. These weren't random mutations. They were strategic deployments, suited to the environment they entered. Think of them as programs, custom-built to restore balance in corrupted systems. This isn't just spiritual symbolism. It sounds like something out of a high-level operating protocol. Vishnu wasn't just divine. He was a kind of celestial fail-safe, a guardian of timelines, deploying avatars like antivirus software when the simulation strayed too far from its course. Meanwhile, texts like the Vaimanika Shastra go into astonishing detail about Vimanas. Not just that they flew, but how they flew. Gyroscopic engines, mercury-based propulsion, vibrational liftoff. Descriptions so precise, they read more like blueprints than myths. Dismissed by many as apocryphal or forged, others believe this document to be a remnant, perhaps Atlantean tech, preserved and hidden by priest scientists long after the last great cataclysm. And then there are the Nagas, the serpentine beings said to inhabit Patala, a subterranean realm deep beneath the surface of the earth. These weren't mere snakes. They were shapeshifters, keepers of knowledge, often feared by men but respected by gods. Patala wasn't depicted as a hellish underworld. It was lush, luminous, brimming with life. The gods didn't conquer it. They consulted it. In one narrative thread, the Nagas of India and the Serpent of Eden may be the same being seen through two cultural lenses. Not evil, simply other. Perhaps even guardians of truths too volatile for the surface world. If these ancient beings really did walk among us, it begs the question, where did they go? The stories say they ascended, returned to the heavens, vanished into legend. But what if they didn't? What if they didn't leave at all? What if they simply changed form? Encoded into lineages, embedded in bloodlines, transformed into systems, symbols, and institutions, what if the same beings who once soared through the air in Vimanas now move in silence through corporate hierarchies, secret societies, or hidden laboratories buried beneath our cities? What if the war of the Mahabharata was not an ending, but the overture to a symphony still unfolding? India didn't forget its gods. It concealed them, layered them in poetry, encrypted them in temples, waiting for someone who could read the code. These weren't just tales of divine love or holy wrath. These were genetic memories, metaphysical blueprints. There are stories of children born from gods and mortals, of weapons only specific bloodlines could wield. This wasn't fantasy, it was function. Some kings trace their ancestry back to the sun, others to the moon. Why? Because their lineage wasn't metaphorical, it was intentional. Even the temples themselves aren't just places of worship, they're energy machines, built on magnetic nodal points, aligned with constellations, designed with ratios so precise they function like tuning forks for the earth itself. The human body, too, was seen as a temple, a vibrational structure of 7 gates, each linked to a divine origin. The gods didn't just visit Earth. They activated it, and us. Some say Vimanas weren't just powered by fuel, but by consciousness, that only beings vibrating at a specific frequency could operate them. If true, then flying these machines wasn't about physical skill. It was about inner resonance. Perhaps that's why so many depictions show gods with blue skin, symbols not of race, but radiation. Blue as in plasma, blue as in high-frequency fields, blue as in not of this world. These depictions weren't religious iconography, they were witness accounts, memory made visual, and the old stories speak of cycles, ages in which gods rise, fall, and return again. So if they once walked the earth, who's to say they aren't still here, just not as we expect? Maybe they now wear digital masks. Maybe the new avatars are software programs. Maybe the new temples are corporations. The new weapons, silent. The gods, ancient forces guiding modern forms. In this context, even the beloved Hanuman, often dismissed as a mythological monkey god, takes on new meaning. Described as capable of flight, shape-shifting, and immense strength, Hanuman may not be a metaphor for instinct, but the memory of a genetically engineered being, one of many who helped Rama defeat the demon king Ravana. And Ravana, demonized in later retellings but originally portrayed as a ruler, a scholar, a master of cosmic arts, a being with 10 heads, possibly referencing 10 streams of consciousness. He wasn't evil in the way modern translations paint him. He was dangerous because he knew how the system worked, and he tried to rewrite it. Sita, too, was far more than a damsel. In many versions, she was a carrier of divine energy, the seed of a new cycle. Whoever controlled her controlled the future. Her abduction wasn't about lust. It was about timelines. And then there's Durga, the warrior mother who didn't descend from a single god, but was formed from the merged energy of many. Each weapon in her grasp was a gift from a different deity, a unified system built to defend the cosmic timeline from energetic viruses and pattern corruption. She doesn't slay monsters. She purifies the matrix. Kali, so often misunderstood, isn't chaos. She's the cleansing fire. She appears when the system is diseased, not to destroy, but to reset. Her dance is the collapse of false programs. She is the embodiment of time and transformation. And beneath her feet lies Shiva, not defeated but grounded. He is the stable core, the neutral field. Together they are not a war. They are the reset button. In the end, the texts say the gods will return, but not as before. Not in the skies, not in thunder and light. They will return as codes, as awakenings, as you. The gods were never external. They were embedded functions in a forgotten operating system called humanity, not to be worshipped, but remembered. And when you remember, truly remember, you don't become a follower, you become a force. If this journey into forgotten histories and ancient technologies intrigued you, don't forget to subscribe to Shadows and Secrets. Leave a like, share your thoughts in the comments, and explore our other deep dives into the hidden currents shaping our world. That said, thank you and see you next time.